but I'm back and really happy to have the opportunity to talk to you about Niaga. So let me share my screen again. Let's have better success with this now. Let me know when you can see this. Okay.
Yes, we can see it.
All right. So I'm just going to take a few minutes to talk to you about what Niaga is and what we do before I spend most of the time talking about what we've learned by being in a self-directed organization. Niaga is the word again spelled backward, and we are a team of chemists and engineers and marketers and cultural anthropologists and a lot of other people who are out to redesign everyday things in the world so that all of the materials can be recovered and reused or recycled at the end of life. And so an exciting thing about being here for the third time is we just finished 4 years working in a self-organized structure in a legal entity that's inside of, so far, 2 very big chemical companies. And so it's been quite a journey, and I'm happy to share how that's going with you. And I'll try to go as quickly as possible so that we can spend most of our time chatting at the end. I'm going to introduce Niaga in a couple of slides. I'm going to share just a highlight of the first 3 industries where we've redesigned products for material recovery and reuse. I'm going to spend a little time explaining our organization and then how we work, not only internally, but also in the marketplace and the ecosystem with customers and suppliers. And then just a few of the things we've learned along the way. So we can chat after that. So Niaga is out here to help create a world without waste. And if you go kind of from this image left to right, you'll start with the world we've come from, where a lot of products in our everyday life end up in the trash. And I would say that almost every company out there is in the middle trying to make things more sustainable. Trying to make things more sustainable by introducing recycled content or putting them in recycle bins. But the reality of the way that things are made today, most of them get downcycled or turned into energy by burning, and not so much maintaining the beautiful high value they can have. And so we're really out to start with the end in mind and to redesign products so that all of the materials can be recovered and reused. And we want to design out waste completely, one industry at a time. We do this by holding to these 3 really primary product design principles. First of all, instead of making things with 20 or 10 or 20 or 4 different ingredients, we really want to start with the end in mind and use the simplest level of high performance ingredients possible. We like to stay within one polymer group to make things easy to recycle. That if you do have to choose more than one material, we really want to put them together in a way that we can separate them down the road. And so that's what the reversible connections are about. One of the toolkits that we have in our arsenal is this click-on-click adhesive, which allows us to put things together and then separate them later. Sometimes we call that glue as a screw. When we select materials and test them, we're trying to start with materials that are known for being very recyclable, very robust in recycling, and generally free of substances of concern or toxic ingredients. The first 3 applications that we've applied this to in our first 8 or 9 years of existence are carpets, mattresses, and panels. This is a picture of one of the carpets, and you'll see this beautiful tag that is on the back of rugs and carpets that use Niaga technology. Using your smartphone, you can go and learn more about the ingredients in the carpet, as well as how to return or recycle it when you're done. And it's backed up by a whole lot of research about what's happening in the carpet industry. We're really using the information to create systems so that the carpet not only can be recovered and recycled, but that it actually gets recovered and the materials reused and turned into more carpet in the future. This is a picture of the Niaga production line. So we sell technology to make carpet, we license intellectual property to make carpet, and we sell ingredients like the adhesive to make this carpet that is polyester from top to bottom. We've also redesigned circular mattresses. We recently learned that our patent for circular mattresses is being granted in Europe, so that was exciting news. And this mattress in particular is developed in partnership with Royal Alpine in the Netherlands. They're a premium mattress manufacturer. And everything in this mattress is made from polyester or steel. And we already have a dismantling center in place in the Netherlands where this mattress can be brought back. It can be 100% of it can be recovered and recycled. And even the zipper is made from polyester. It also includes that smart tag so that you know what it is, you know what's in it, you know how to return it. This is just some examples of making mattresses the new way. And then our most recent venture is redesigning the laminated panels used inside of your desk or a table or office furniture. You'll soon see it in some circular doors being launched in the Netherlands. And this is using the Niaga adhesive with really natural materials in order to make a really strong panel that where you could either just click off the top to refurbish a panel or refurbish a desk at the end of life, or you can separate all the layers if it was damaged or something to recover all the materials and use them again and again. This is a picture of our manufacturing line in the south of the Netherlands where we can make panels to show people how the technology works and also get people into early production. A special thing about Niaga that's different from a lot of businesses is, in addition to working with materials and chemistry and process technology to create products that could be recycled, we also spend a lot of time in the ecosystem proving that closed loops can be built and making sure that we have a closed loop behind everything that gets into the marketplace. So we know that creating a closed loop relies on these three different elements. You have to have a collection method to get the things back at the end of life. You have to know what recycling technology you're going to use, whether that's a big chemical recycling facility or a local mechanical recycling method or fiberization. And then you all have to know what new application you want to put those second generation materials into. Sometimes this happens in closed loops where a manufacturer wants their own materials back. And sometimes it will be an open loop where many consumers send things to a central collection place and then it gets redistributed to industries or to back to manufacturers through a more open hub. This was the circularity platform I was telling you about. Whenever you see a manufacturer we've partnered with putting a product that's completely circular in the world, they tag it. We've tested that product. It's been designed to use again. All the materials can be recovered and reused. If you want to know more about how that happens, you can just scan that tag. It will take you to a landing page about that product and how it's been redesigned. It has a digital passport that provides transparency about what is in it. Oftentimes you'll see claims on products about what's not in it. Like my favorite example, I have a sweet tooth, a raging sweet tooth. And so I like licorice. And you'll notice on some licorice packages that it says, I'm a fat-free food. The truth is licorice has never had fat in it, but it has tons of sugar. And they don't say I'm a sugar-filled food. It just says I'm a fat-free food. So we really want to change what is required on materials the same way that there are more and more regulations for food, so that you as a consumer gets a lot more information about what you're sleeping on or what you're painting your walls with or what the rug you're walking on. And then when it does come time to protect the value of the materials in something you're finished with, we want you to know how to return it. We want to make that really easy. And we're grateful that this is a digital platform because the technologies and the outlets for recycling in 2023 are going to be different in 2028 and 2033. So this allows us to continue to update how to return things market develops. So that's a little bit about Niaga. Now about the organization. About 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago, we were sitting in a meeting looking at a traditional org chart, and a lot of people on the team said, well, thank you for showing me what the hierarchical structure kind of looks like, but that really doesn't feel like us. We were already working very collaboratively and openly, and they said, what if we could redesign our organization for circularity? And I was like, yeah, like there's so many things happening in the world with holacracy and sociocracy and Ricardo Semler's work and aquacy. I was like, yeah, let's go learn about that. And we created a sub-team within our organization who were designers of the new organization. And if you weren't on the design team, you got to be an editor. And we showed everybody the ideas around the structure before we implemented it. And then when we made the decision as a team to implement it, people chose the teams they wanted to be on. So this is the Niaga team. We're about 30 people these days. And the structure that we work in looks like this. We created an organization where you can be on two types of teams. You can be on a growth team, which means that you have responsibility for venturing. You have responsibility for developing products for specific industries and then going out into the world and finding manufacturers and learning with them about how to shift the world to this new way of being. And if you're not in one of those commercially oriented, externally facing growth teams, you're probably on a service team. And a service team serves all the growth teams with specific expertise. And I'll show you those service teams in a minute. The source team is not a management team. The source team is a couple of us that have overarching visibility, like me and the controller and an attorney and a patent attorney. But then there's also one member from each team, and that member can be anybody at any level that team designates. And we are the governance of the entire system, where we can work on inter-team dynamics or decisions that need to be made for the greater good. All of these teams were set up with the core values on the left. So our entire organization is very purpose-driven and customer-powered. You can read all these core values on your own. But there's a couple that I think are different than the organizations we grew up in. One of them is radical transparency. You know from our digital passport work that we really believe in radical transparency for society and for the world. But that rings loud and true inside of the way we work, because at Niaga, there are no hidden board meetings in small rooms where people work on stuff. When we have our source team meetings, the source team is on video or in the room, but that forum is open for anyone else to listen into. They can participate in the chat. If we know they're there in the chat, sometimes we'll ask them a direct question. We talk openly about our forecast and our goals. We talk openly about our shortcomings when we miss something, and we face that together. We try to have zero subordination. Everybody is one human with 24 hours a day. We have different levels of training and different levels of experience and different educations, but we're all one important person with a lot of value to add. And then fierce inclusion. I'll talk a little bit more about the difference between diversity and inclusion. Inclusion is the much harder puzzle to solve. But the more and more that you can create safe environments for everybody to be themselves, even the days they're jerks or the days they make people mad, the more powerful the team gets to really hear each other's crazy ideas and to get breakthroughs. So we have 3 different growth teams now: the carpet team, the panel team, and the mattress team. They're backed up by an innovation team, a manufacturing team, a marketing and more team, and a circle closers team. This way of working that's highly collaborative and highly empowered goes way beyond Niaga's internal structure, and it extends to how we think about partners. We don't really have customers and suppliers because it takes everybody thinking differently about creating different ecosystems and creating different worlds to really deliver a circular economy. One thing this should have been above this, but we do have minimum standards for all teams. So all teams have to have a plan on a page that shows their wildly important goals for the year, their critical work streams and quarterly deliverables, so that we know if we delivered those quarterly goals, we should be where we want to be by the end. We have a bi-weekly meeting where 2 of our teams present their updates. So on a 6-week cycle, we kind of hear from everybody. And then all Niaga teammates are invited to participate in an all hands on deck workshop 3 times a year. A lot of those became visual and digital during COVID. We really like to be together in person when we can. And so this is a photo of our team workshop that we held in January. We bring those same tools to our partners. And so when we work with a partner that wants to take their portfolio of products from the linear world to the circular world, or we want to work with a supplier to those players that needs to, change their components or think differently about manufacturing, it really takes working in partnership to deliver this change, because it's not just one thing that we have to do. So when Niaga works with a partner in a very open and collaborative way. We bring a lot of support. We can help people redesign their products. We can help them innovate with new materials. As working in these big chemical companies, we have a lot of testing equipment and a lot of production capabilities. We can give people the data from the analytical labs about what is really in their products. Sometimes people are using materials and they have been told it's one thing, and once we test it, it's actually it's blended with 2 or 3 different things they didn't even know. We help people plan their material return and recovery routes. We can develop process technology. They can use our machines if they need to get a head start. And we definitely work to connect lots of players in an ecosystem so that the future is ready when those materials do come back. This is a picture from Dutch Design Week a few years ago where we brought a lot of our partners together. And it's really nice to recognize these leaders, the brands at the bottom of the page. I highly recommend that if you need carpet, if you need a rug, if you need a bed, if you need an office furniture or a door, these are the companies that are prepared to sell you solutions in 2023 that are made with Niaga technology inside. So how has this way of working in agile ways and in a zero subordination and fiercely inclusive organization look like? I wanted to summarize 3 valuable lessons that we've learned. First of all, diversity is easy. You can set targets to have more women around, or to have more races around, or to hire very diverse communities. But getting them to see each other and hear each other is hard. We have been able to shift the way that we hire people, so it's not management's responsibility to hire people for the team. The teams hire their teammates, and we have a really robust and inclusive process for that not only the team gets to choose who they work with, but that candidate knows a lot about who they're going to be working with and the culture they're going to be working in and the ways of working before they sign up for that. We really mind the energy of the team. You can just watch what happens when there's conflict or drama. And so that's really the most precious resource, I think, in any company, is the collective energy and talent that you have to apply to opportunities and problems. So when that energy dips or when that energy has drama, it's really important to address it and lift it back up again. We really believe in coaching, having training coaches within the team, bringing coaches to the teams, and they've added tremendous value for us. When teams are in crisis, we have interventions. We step in with a process called a QUAC, a quick, urgent, aligning conference call, and we really encourage people to be brutally honest about the pain and about the frustration so that they can see each other again and put their hands on each other's backs. And it's been my promise as a leader to all the teams I've worked with for 15 or 20 years that to the best of my ability, things will happen with you versus to you. You know what it's like when things happen to you and a policy changes or something that you weren't at the table to discuss. It just comes your way. I think most things are better received when people have had a voice at the table. And so if people feel like something is happening to them anywhere in Niaga, it's you have fair game to say, whoa, this doesn't feel quite right. The second learning is that when you are in disruptive innovation and you're in the loss-making years of a startup or a new venture, it's so critical to deliver the milestones that are within your control. You can't always control when people are going to spend their money with you or how fast your revenue is going to build, but you do have to control what you can control, and you really need to have a mindset of personal and team accountability to deliver on the commitments we make in our plans on a page. So we spend a lot of time plan the work and work the plan. We just say, always do your best. If you fell short, but you went to bed every night knowing you gave your best every day, we really couldn't have asked for more. We have a process called TATW. So when people have a bad day or they make a mistake or they had a failed experiment or they had a bad meeting with somebody, then we say, ta-da! TATW moments that are shared, and it's not scary to share a failure or to share a bad day. Bring people together to look at that thing without it being emotional, to say, oh, what do we learn from that? And how can we turn that ta-da into an aha as fast as possible? We really like agile project management from the really robust cycles of having a quick target, something you want to learn in 2 weeks, something you want to learn in a couple weeks, running that work and then checking in to see how it's going, but also pausing along the way for retrospectives and reflection to learn about, checking in on well-being, checking in on how we're working, checking in on how people are doing. The third big learning as we shifted from the traditional structure to an open and collaborative, highly empowered structure is that this way of working isn't for everyone. And that's all right. You need to be able to check your ego and your sort of autopilot knowledge of power paradigms and hierarchies at the door, because those power frameworks are strong. We've also learned that you have to set really clear expectations in recruiting so that people opt into this way of working and it doesn't kind of happen to them as a surprise. High performance teams do experience tension between high personal accountability to do what you think is right and what you know how to do and what you've been hired here to do, and valuing we and the team over yourself. So that's a tension. It's an important one to manage, but it's also easy for high performance teams. And then psychological safety depends on trust. You need to have enough trust, not pseudo trust and fake niceness, but the real trust that you get to make people angry sometimes. You get to step on someone's toes, and then you get to apologize and you get to fix it and you get to elevate that relationship. I'll share a couple of best practices with you. The first one. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. We're almost out of time. It's 20 minutes.
Okay. I only have two more slides.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. And sorry, I'm the one that was late. So the best practices I'll share is teams who play together, stay together. We always mix elements of fun into what we're doing and working in our team workshops. So there's a little pajama party in the upper left-hand corner there. We like to visualize our wildly important goals, and you'll see we had an artist kind of come in to visualize each team's goals last year, and we did our own this year. I would highly recommend The Power of TED, the empowerment dynamic. It's a really great way to eliminate and minimize drama by teaching people how to go away from the dreaded drama triangle and into creating outcomes, no victims. And then the last area is experimenting. We run experiments all the time to test and improve new ideas. We're open to experimenting. We're open to being wrong. And that really accelerates change. So this journey continues. A lot of things are going well. It's very powerful to be driven by purpose. We have great alignment in our strategy and our targets. The commercial partnership approach is paying off. We have very high teammate retention. And our engagement surveys show that people have very high autonomy. They feel the work is meaningful. They feel recognition comes naturally and easily in our culture. But there is room to improve before I see you again next year. The lowest areas in our engagement surveys are career path. What does a career path look like when you don't have direct reports and you're not managing bigger and bigger organizations? In our world, we always have constrained resources, just like a lot of you. So workload can be hard to manage. And how do you reward people so that they're getting recognition, but they also want to make sure that the reward comes with it? So we work on resource loading. We get better and better at what we're not going to do. And we're trying to redefine some of those career paths and still promote people in a zero subordination environment. So that's all I wanted to share with you, and I will stop sharing. So hopefully we can chat for a few minutes.
Great, thank you so much. I already posted a link to Mentimeter in the chat. And I will post it again for anyone who missed it. So feel free to go over there and type in your questions or anything that might still be unclear or that you would like to know about. Let me just see if I can find the link. And no, it's not doing it. Well, you can still find the link above in the chat, and I will keep on trying to send it again.
Can we just chat in the meantime?
Here we go. So let's hear from you what you would like to hear more about.
Does anyone just want to ask a question or explore something?
Yeah, Kelly, a question from my side. You mentioned not everybody is ready to work in this kind of setup environment. How do you check that when hiring, when recruiting? What are the specific kind of questions or challenges that you put forward to confirm whether someone is ready, is up for it?
That's an excellent question. We talk about our culture and our way of working a lot along the way, but we'll ask questions of people about their, anytime in interviews, we try to ask people about actual experiences they've had with their leadership, how they feel about their influence, how they feel about power, how they feel about their ability to drive change. And how that has happened in the past. But even if somebody does share experiences where I took responsibility, I made the decisions, I drove the outcomes, even that's kind of common that, that's how we've been successful in the past. But as we teach, well, that's really great that you have those experiences, but we don't, we do it differently here. For example, I remember several people we were interviewing for a leadership role, or a role for a lot of responsibility at a director level, and they said they use the word delegation. I delegate this to people. I delegate that to people. And I said, oh, we don't use that word around here because we don't get to delegate to other people. That implies subordination. We have to enroll people in what we would like them to do of their own free will. So you don't get to delegate around here. You need to take that word out of your vocabulary if you want to work here. Because the people you used to delegate to that you might have seen as smaller than you are actually full-size people, and they have their own free will. And if you would like them to take on that responsibility, ask them to. The funny thing is, when you ask people to take on a challenge that's good for the team and good for the business and good for them, they tend to say yes. But when they accept that of their own free will, it's wildly different than here's what you're supposed to do and I'm the decider of what you do. And that it's like, it's okay that people have come from there. That might be all they've ever known. But we try to say, well, I want you to know that you don't get to delegate. You have to enroll. And when they do get used to, if they say, oh, wow, that would be better, I would like to try that, you're going to do fine here. But if you say, no, I have to have power over people. I have to be able to tell people what to do. I have to be able to make the decisions. There's plenty of places to do that. It's just not here.
Thank you.
And by the way, that doesn't make somebody a bad person. It just says it's just not a good fit.
That's great to hear. There's also a question in the chat. If you could expand on the challenges that you are facing and what have you tried that didn't work?
What have we tried that didn't work? I think that we tried for a while to let people choose what they could handle. And so like we had we allowed a lot of freedom in how people worked and how teams worked. And they had really good intentions to be able to do more than we could really do with the resources we had. So we would get into one of those situations where we would set out at the beginning of the year with like 3 goals, 3 really clearly defined, wildly important goals. But then this hidden factory underneath that would have people saying yes to everything else that customers wanted to try or that we thought was cool or that we thought would add value. And then before you know it, everything starts getting slower and everything starts getting harder and people start feeling a lot of stress and pressure because the 3 things we said we would do start not getting all the attention. And then the 10 things we're trying to do are all a little more resource intensive and more than we thought they would be. And so we realized that, okay, we have a tendency to say yes because we're good people who want to change the world, but we needed to adopt the discipline of some stage gating and some other things so that we really say no and protect the most important work a lot better. And I would really say it's been last year and this year where we're way better at rewarding people for saying no to things and staying focused on delivering the most important work that we agreed to together at the beginning.
Okay, Marty, does that answer your question, or would you still like to say something to this? You're also free to speak up if you like to, or just post it in the chat.
Audrey has your hand up.
Yes. Hello. First, I want to say wow, because it's so like one of my dreams that a company like that would exist. And I know I'm not going to do it. So thank you so much. I was having shivers listening to you. And I'm curious, how are decisions made? Who decides what? And is there a process for decision making when many people are involved in the decision?
Sure. I'll offer 2 comments on decision making. First of all, one of the things that I had to learn as a leader, as I kind of call myself the head coach now because I don't really make any decisions, but as a managing director and coming from places where I was always a decision maker, to stop making decisions was really hard sometimes because people bring you these juicy, fun, important, complicated problems, and you really want to follow your training and your instinct and your intuition just to make a quick decision. But the reality is that doesn't serve the team, that doesn't teach people. And so we've had some really big decisions we had to make, like where to locate a production facility. And the team did all the analytical work and all of the work, but they couldn't make a decision as a team. So they brought it to me one day. And I kind of had a big feeling about what I thought the right thing to do was, but I had to say, I'm not going to make this decision. You guys have 6 more weeks to make the decision. Here's how to ask your coach to help you to support the team coming to consensus as a team. And at the end of 6 weeks, if you guys haven't worked it out, then I'll make a decision. But you got 6 more weeks to do this and I'll help you along the way. And at the end of 6 weeks, they did come to a consensus. They made the decision. They knew why they were making the decision. When it came to implementing that decision, they did hit some hiccups along the way, but they owned them because they made the decision and they felt ownership of that and they were able to overcome it. So within teams, they sign up for their wildly important goals. They have a lot of freedom in how they execute it. They're responsible for the decisions if it is a decision that's only in their market space or only in that area. They will want to make some decisions that could have consequences for the rest of Niaga. So as an example, one of our partners had a component in one of their products that's not recyclable, but it was really high performance. It gave performance to their products, and they still way to with that component in it to bring the future mattress back and recover 80% of it instead of 100. They would have to dispose of this thing, but we didn't have a substitute for it yet. It took us almost a year to agree that we would support those transition products in the short term as a stepping stone to get to the fully circular portfolio, because we really hated having anything that wasn't recyclable in the solution. And so if the team alone had made that decision, they would have just gone for it because they were happy to get the 80% back. But that was a platform. You can't do it in one area without it affecting the other areas. So that kind of decision comes to the source team. So this set of peers at the source team will hear a recommendation that one team wants to do that has an implication for everybody. And then we make that decision based on consent, not consensus. Everybody has to read the proposal. Everybody has to have an opinion about it. And if there is an objection or a dissenting opinion, the decision maker has to know that, address that, accept that. But with all that information on the table, we have to go. We can't wait for 100% alignment, but we do get to hear the dissent. We have to try to overcome it. But then the decision maker has to go. You have to keep going, even though not everybody's always going to be on the same page. So those are the kind of 2-3 things about decisions. As a leader, you got to stop making decisions. You got to teach people to make decisions. As the team, you have to do robust analysis and get the team to where you're all together in risky things. And then if something has implications for others, you need to be aware of it. You need to create that forum to debate it. And then you still have to go.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. I believe that also answers one of the questions in the chat, which was about the main challenge for decision making. So let's maybe head over to Mentimeter, because I also saw some questions coming in there. And one of the questions is, how has the size of the team developed over time? And what is your current growth potential?
Oh, wow. That's a wonderful question. The team has grown and changed over the years. It's been as much as 40 people, although I will share that the Niaga team some people are full-time employees of the venture, and then some people are freelancers and contractors and experts and people kind of on loan from other departments of the companies we work inside of. And so if you are contributing Niaga, we call you a teammate, a full body, a full person, no matter how you're paid. And so the team, it does kind of ebb and flow. At its peak, we had 2 sub-ventures. We launched an e-commerce business in Southern California, and we launched our own carpet company when we weren't happy with the pace of change. And as those things, in COVID, we had to shut down some of those ventures. And so these days we are about 30 people focused on the 3 industries that I've told you about. So that is, I'm on the phone, sorry. So that is about 30 people right now. And our ambition, we want to affect, right now, there are products in the marketplace worth about 100 million euros that have Niaga technology inside. And hopefully that'll be much closer to $1 billion in the next 5 or 7 years of their products. So of course, our share of that revenue is much smaller, but we want to affect our first $1 billion in sales when we're at 100 million of products in the world being circular instead of linear right now.
Okay, thank you very much for that. In your presentation, you also mentioned safe spaces and trust, and there's a question on that in Mentimeter asking, how do you create a safe space for all to speak, listen, and ask?
Oh, that is a great question too. It's a lot of we have a lot of tools for that, and probably one of my favorites is a tool that we've used at our workshops for a couple. We use a lot of carousels. We use a lot of, if we have a plenary space where we're sharing something with everybody, we'll break into small groups to kind of talk about it. Another thing that we'll do when we're in plenary sessions is we'll give people a set of cards that have thought starters, like I like and appreciate blank, or I have an improvement idea for blank, or I would be willing to help with blank. And when you give people these cards that allow them to capture thoughts while they're listening, it not only gets everybody participating in the dialogue to be prepared to give people this gift of their feedback, but it also levels the playing field between the introverts and the extroverts. So when everybody has to be quiet and write their thoughts down, everybody participates. And then when you hand those cards in, the 25 people that weren't looking at that thing every day you get 25 pieces of feedback of different perspectives to learn from and build upon. Because if without that, we were finding that the 10% of the team was doing 80% of the talking all the time, and getting the introverts and the quieter people and the shyer people to participate and getting their brains and their input was a little hard. That when we started using these other mechanisms to make sure we're drawing the bright ideas and the brilliant thinking out of everyone, it just made people more and more comfortable. First of all, they realized, you really want to hear what I have to say? You really give a shit about my point of view? You really want me to be, I really am a whole person around here? It took a little while to build that trust. And when we've kind of shown that consistently over and over time that we want to hear from everybody, then it actually started being something people trusted and believed in. And now they will say anything. I mean, I get feedback regularly. And I think I'm really proud of people that have the courage to say, Kelly, we don't believe, you said that thing, and I just think you're completely wrong or crazy. It takes a long time for people to have the courage to say that, and I'm grateful for it.
Okay. With that, I think we have time for one last question. And there's one in Mentimeter, I think that would connect well to what we just heard. So if there is a safe space to open up and to talk about things, that can sometimes also lead to conflict. So how do you solve problems in the team? And additional with the intervention that you mentioned in the slides.
Yeah, I can give you a good example. So we had a year where one of our teams was, they lost one of their key suppliers who had a kind of a pivot during COVID, and we had to go find a new one, and it kind of put them a year behind delivering their goals. So it was super high, stressful situation. And so you got people like coming to work in a manufacturing area that doesn't have a lot of volume yet, and they're not feeling successful. And then you have other people working in the marketplace trying to develop the opportunities, and they're all judging each other. And some people at the plant feel like they work all the time, and all these people working from home aren't really working at all because they're working at home and they're probably, not so busy all the time. There's just a lot of making assumptions about each other and judging, and it got kind of crazy in that team. And there was a level of frustration from feeling like they were failing and being behind, where people were even thinking they might want to leave. And so at the end of the year in 2021, we stepped in to have this intervention. We call it a QUAC, a quick urgent aligning conference call. We brought people together just for 90 minutes. It was on Zoom. I really said, time out. This is getting crazy. There's lots of drama. Everybody is feeling what you feel in a really painful way, because you do care a lot. You do care about each other, but it's not working. And so you get this forum today to be courageous, embrace courageously sharing your pain and your frustration and your fears. And you get to say that you're making each other feel bad, and that you're stepping on each other's toes, and you're making assumptions, and it's not fun anymore. And each person took the time. And there were some tears, and there was some frustration, and there was some incredible vulnerability. We created the safe space for that. And we got it all out on the table. And then people started realizing, oh my gosh, I don't want you to feel that way. I'm not alone. It's not so bad. Like, I want to try. I'm willing to shift, and once that we really got all that stuff on the surface, it kind of became this energy that we were able to play with and shift. And by the end of that 90 minutes, it was kind of really calm. And we just said, okay, are you willing to try? Are you willing to try to show up tomorrow with your adults, to see each other, to put your hands on each other's backs, and to take those next steps together? You might fail. You might not be able to come together as a team, but are you willing to try? And every single one of them enrolled in, yes, I'm willing to try. I want this to happen. I'm all in. We'll figure it out. Within 6 weeks, they had an entirely different energy. And at the end of last year, they had solved all of their problems, signed up their next 2 customers, shipped their first invoices of the new solutions. The new solutions are being celebrated at trade shows and presented in social media. And that team found each other again, and now they're having all kinds of fun, and I'm incredibly proud of them. But it took that minute to say, time out. Every single one of you has been hired for a reason. Every single one of you is special. Every single one of you is important. You're just not seeing each other anymore. And we gotta try to reset. And it worked. Really, really, they're having a great time right now.
That's amazing to hear. Thank you so much, Kelly, for answering all of these questions. I found it very inspiring, and I hope that you do too. If you still have questions or things that you want to talk about, or something you just want to discuss with each other, feel free to head over to Spatial Chat and meet there with the group. I'm going to be posting a link in the chat in a bit, but I also want to let you know that there are some other amazing sessions coming up. So if you want to join one of those, you can either stay in this room, or you can jump to one of the other rooms that we have. I'll give you all the links here in the chat. But if you still have the need to discuss some things or talk about something, just head over to Spatial Chat. We'll be in Teal Lounge. So come find us there and we can continue this conversation.
Okay, thank you.